What's a big fish to the average angler? 5 pounds? 10 pounds? 15 pounds? Maybe 20 pounds? Here's an interesting fact for you. Even a modest lake sturgeon eclipses most big freshwater fish, no matter the species, even big pike and muskies. So if big fish are on your list, there's no reason to look any further than lake sturgeon, a fish that's been making a massive resurgence in recent years. Definitely good news for fans of monster sport fish. Today we join Jeremy Smith and Nick Lindner on the Rainy River in early fall for some hot big fish action as the duo pursues these prehistoric looking trophies. And while the two embark on a trophy hunt, they also share location and presentation tips not to be missed. From how to navigate current and wind, to proper positioning slip rigs in and around river holes, to tips on how to fight and handle these amazing creatures. This is going to be one show you're not going to want to miss. Today we unlock some sturgeon secrets.
Ah, look at that. How do you like that, Nick?
That is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Woo! Ooh, we've got an exciting little trip ahead of us here. We're up on one of the famous walleye rivers, the Rainy River in northern Minnesota. And the game plan right now is we've got a sweet new bait from Rapala. This is the Husky Jerk 14. We're hoping to troll. This can be a great time of year to be able to pick up big walleyes trolling. But if you see right here, the water levels are quite high. It looks like there's some debris in the river. So who knows if that's going to happen or not. But we've got stuff for pike. We've also got stuff for one of the biggest freshwater fish ever, sturgeon. So let's give it a try and see what we can catch. We're loaded for bear.
Yeah, let's do it.
Timing can be everything when it comes to fishing, and especially when you're fishing rivers. We got word 3 days ago that the walleyes were going bananas on the Rainy River. Since that time, there's been a torrential rainstorm, so wouldn't you know it, the water levels are high, fast, and dirty. Not good bedfellows when you're talking about fishing a river. We did our best and caught a few walleyes trolling husky jerks and scrounged out a few eaters on some jigs, but sometimes you gotta know when Mother Nature has the upper hand. So we decided to tuck our walleye gear away and suit up for some sturgeon fishing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they're just so tough. I didn't get super rigged up for this. We were kind of looking to do a little multi-species, some walleye fishing, maybe a pike, and of course wanted a sturgeon fish. So I've actually got, this is the stick that I throw little bucktails for muskies with, and it actually is a pretty decent stick for doing this thing. You kind of want that soft tip on the rod for doing it. You really don't need specialized gear. Catfish rods are great, but you know what, Nick, I'll just pop them off. We won't mess with them in the net.
Good call
But
there.
pretty cool. I mean, these critters are just amazing. Amazing, amazing. Show you this dude here. All right. Look at that, huh? Mr. Sturge. Mr. Sturge, huh? Look at that. They're related to sharks. You notice how he just like turns, you can like turn in half. That's because he's got a notochord instead of a spinal cord. So he's cartilage all the way through. And what happens with these sturgeon, you can see on a small one like this, notice the top, those are called scutes. Those are the bones, just like sharks exhibit their bones and teeth. Sturgeon exhibit the bones in scutes. So as they age, they'll just kind of wear off. And this guy someday is going to be giant. But look at where they get that power. Do you notice look at the wings on those things? Just amazing. Would you do me a favor, Nick, and grab that hook out for me while I got a good grip on him?
Yes, sir.
Cool, look at how dark their gills are. Pretty crazy, they're just like maroon. Cool, look at that. I'm gonna let this guy go, and one thing I've observed with sturgeon fishing, if you're coming to a place like the Rainy or other places in the upper Midwest where you can fish for them, the closer you get to sunset, generally the better the fishing is. So make hay fishing walleyes and other stuff, but when you get close to that sunset period, you want to be soaking meat for sturge. See you, dude. Look at that.
There is no bigger advocate for the Lake Sturgeon of Lake of the Woods and Rainy River than the Minnesota DNR. And the man formerly in charge of overseeing this fishery is Tom Heinrich.
Sturgeon are just a cool fish to work with. You know, fish of this size just don't exist everywhere. And, we're lucky enough to be able to work with them. Lake sturgeon were one of the most abundant species in Lake of the Woods at the time of European settlement. And they were also one of the species that was first harvested by commercial fishermen. By 1900, the fish population was essentially wiped out due to the very heavy commercial fishing pressure that was going on during that time. What really caused the population to rebound was just a series of clean water legislations that were passed. And once that clean water legislation was enacted, sturgeon, there was enough of a remnant population that the sturgeon were able to do it all by themselves, and they came back very, very strong.
The lake sturgeon, an ancient species, and still there is so much we don't know about them. And while they've done a great job bouncing back from near extinction on the Rainy, tagging studies like the one the crew is doing here provide fisheries biologists with a wealth of information.
So we get some idea of what proportion of the population is being harvested every year. Additionally, it allows us to have some idea of where these fish are distributing. So when anglers, whenever they catch it, they let us know where they caught it. And so we can tell where the fish that started here, that spawned in the Rapid River, where they ultimately spend the rest of their year. And then finally, it also gives us some basic biology on the fish, and that's how frequently they're spawning. That's a really important one to us. What we found through our tagging studies is that on Lake of the Woods, male sturgeon seem to spawn every 2 or 3 years. Females spawn, we haven't seen any females spawn yet that any more frequently than every 3 years of age, and the bulk of them are probably spawning every 3 to 5 years. And they don't really start spawning until they're over 50 inches long.
In the end, it's the angler, you and me, who benefit the most from clean water, the ideal habitat, and all of this intense research.
It would be very unusual for an angler to come up here right now and not be able to catch at very least a 50-inch sturgeon. We routinely see anglers catching 60-inch fish. The very largest fish that I've heard of anglers actually catching, probably within the last about 5 years, has been well up over 70 inches long. I believe it was like 78 inches long. That's the largest fish that I've heard of in recent history. That fish could easily weigh anywhere from, I'd say 120 to 150 pounds.
Just knowing there's a fish that weighs 150 pounds somewhere in this river should have every red-blooded fisherman within 500 miles making this trip. Yet the sturgeon still hasn't earned a mass respect, but I can tell you one thing, it's certainly earned ours.
That feels nice. That feels good. That's what this is all about, man. This is so fun. We really pack for bear. When you're going to a destination fishing, or what we do every time we do it, we always make sure we've got a little of this and a little of that. We brought stuff for pike, we brought stuff for walleye, we brought stuff for sturgeon. Nice. He fought hard. Now he's gonna go back down.
Wasn't ready for you. Getting the net ready.
Yeah, right? There, he's back up. There we go. Woo! And it paid off. Our goal today was to troll for walleyes. The system is famous for having a great run of fall fish, and I'm a junkie for sturgeon. And once you know it, we brought our sturgeon stuff just in case the walleye bite died and there's too much stuff in the river, and we're catching quite a few sturge. I love it. This is what I would say is about an average fish in this fishery. Tell me that is not an awesome fish to be average, huh? Look at that, spectacular. Probably the most powerful fish that I've ever fought or dealt with in freshwater, no doubt. The lake sturgeon, a good friend of mine. Let's get you back. Here we go. Woo! See you, dude. All right, so as I get this rig rebaited again, you can see what I've got on here is just kind of your slip sinker rig, but I'll share with you the different riggings that we have on board for sturgeon fishing and kind of the systems that we use for catching these big old dinosaurs.
When it comes to tackling up for sturgeon, it pays to be over-prepared. You never know if you're going to set the hook into a 10-pound fish or a 100-pound behemoth, so you gotta be ready. Let's start at the business end of the setup. We like to use no-roll sinkers on a simple slip rig with or without a leader. Oftentimes, fish will have a preference. Without a leader is best, if possible, because less chances of fouling up. We use anywhere from 1 to 4 ounce weights depending on current, with 2 to 3 ounce being a go-to size. A VMC 6/0 92-99 octopus hook is what we prefer because it's ultra sturdy and has a long shank and wide gap to load lots of meat. We like to use gobs of nightcrawler tipped with some type of minnow. Attractants ahead of the hook can make a big difference. Brass and glass with no leader for sound, or even spinners can be very effective. As far as rod, reel, and line go, you don't need anything hyper-specific for sturgeon fishing. A heavy bass flipping stick or a lighter musky rod will do. You just need something with a soft tip and backbone. If we do set up specifically for sturgeon, we use an 8-foot medium-fast Mojo cat rod with the size 300 Lexa Win and 50 or 65-pound test Suffolk's Performance braid in high-vis yellow. If you rig up like this, you'll have no problem handling the biggest fish the river gives up.
So when you're hunking big gobs of meat like this out in the river, the ticket obviously is make sure that you're fishing with bait on the bottom. So when you're casting, you don't want to do a real snappy cast. You want to basically lob the bait. So what I'm going to do here is I'll sidearm it here, but it's going to be a nice slow, steady lob. You don't want to snap the rod when you're casting. If you snap the rod, you're just going to spray bait all over in the air. So it's just kind of a low trajectory lob. Cast it out there. I'll just kind of slack line it. Wait till I feel the bottom. There's the bottom. Boom. Feel what it feels like. It's a little sandy right there. All right. And now I'm in business. And I always keep the bail open. I'm not fishing with a clicker here, so I'll adjust my brake to be nice and tight so the line's not flying out. But if you set your rod down or whatever, you want the fish to be able to take line. You don't want it locked, because if a 100-pound sturgeon picks up your line and your deal's locked, not in a rod holder, you can say sayonara to your combo. On. Whoop whoop.
Yep.
Let's see what we got here, boss man. I'm paid to just keep moving in this hole. Oh, that's a cool one.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Handle him for me over there.
I will. He's gonna be a sharp little devil.
What do you got to avoid with the little ones like
These
that?
are, when you're handling these guys, these little scutes right here are pretty sharp, so you gotta be kind of careful not to mess up your hands. Look at that guy. Cool. Isn't that cool?
That is cool. Wow. The
There you
bottom
go.
feeding.
Here
Sucking
we go.
up globs and night crawlers.
Right. Ready? So how you set up on these spots depends on two things primarily. One is the current conditions, and the other is the wind. So right now we're faced with one of those conditions where the wind is blowing up the current. That's about as tough as it gets. Now if we were in the ideal conditions, how we would end up anchoring is we'd set up where the boat would be basically perpendicular to the current. So we'd have a bigger spread, but right now the water's high, the wind is working against us, so we're actually having to anchor just off the bow, and we're able to throw our lines downstream. The current's swift enough, so if we were to cast out off the side of the boat, it just sweeps the baits basically right back behind the boat, and also there's enough debris that it clogs it up with a bunch of junk. So right now, because of the conditions, we're having to fish directly behind the boat. That means we're not covering very much water. So what I'll do is we'll cast out, let the bait soak for maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes, and then what I'm doing is I'm just basically lifting the rod up, reeling the bait in, and then I'll set it down, maybe move it 20, 30 feet. So I'm not just letting the bait sit in one spot on the cast. I'll soak it for 5 minutes, bring it forward. We'll do that maybe twice with each one of the sticks in the boat, and then from there, we're just gonna end up moving anchoring position. I can't tell you how many times I've been out here where 20 feet that way, you're creaming them. It's one after the other, but right here, you're catching nothing. So Don't get discouraged if you set up on a spot, you fish for 10, 20, 30 minutes, you don't catch anything. I like to just look at my clock all the time. I'm here for 10, 15 minutes, no bites. Hey, let's just move. And we're not moving far. We just lift the anchor, move over 10 feet that way, come back this way, and just kind of work your way down. When you do that, you end up finding the active fish in the hole, and you catch a lot more fish by doing that type of technique.
Yeah.
Leaders. Looking like it's a more decent fish.
Yeah, I mean, it might end up being the second biggest, possibly.
Yes.
Third, up there.
Yes. Isn't that crazy how hard they pull? Just
Well,
insane.
this one hasn't even pulled yet, I don't think. It hasn't made any runs. It doesn't have the runs yet.
Oh, it's wrapped up again. Another spinner.
Really?
Yep.
I wonder why it hasn't been making the runs. There we go. Ooh.
They're crazy. Now he's getting with the program.
Yep. Now it's under the boat. It was just over here, now it's here.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Cool.
Maybe drag him to the other side, Nick, and we can
Sure thing,
grab some of
bud.
your rods. Sturgio. You want to handle that little monster?
I think I can maybe handle this one. Probably get myself cut, but sweet. Beauty. Just a little guy,
Cool nonetheless.
but we take those.
Heck yeah. Perfect.
So this is actually my first time sturgeon fishing, and I would definitely have to say it's been a treat. It's kind of a lot like catfishing in a way as far as your tactics and whatnot. And I love catfishing, but this is like catfishing on steroids. But one thing I will say that I have noticed over the course of the day is that the more work you put in, the better you're gonna do. It can be really tempting when you pull up maybe at the head of a hole to just put the anchors down and camp out and wait for fish to come and bite. But you know, we've actually moved around a lot on this hole. We started at the head of the hole, and then we sort of zigzagged around, sort of left and right and down deeper into the hole, and it's paid off, really. It seems like every maybe second anchor position we've hooked a fish, which according to Jeremy, it hasn't been hot and heavy compared to what it could be, but to me, really exciting. And yeah, like I said, catfishing on steroids.
On?
Yep.
Yes. I'm gonna leave mine out to see if we can double up. I think we're in the clear.
There's been some activity this.
Yeah, this little spot down here, I just missed a bite. You just caught that other one. Ooh, there he is. Up on top, skiing him like a walleye.
Yep. That's what we
Oh,
do.
he's wrapped in his tail. That's what's going on. He rolled in it.
Darn. Okay.
He'll unhook, he'll unwrap, and then give you some action.
Drag him in.
That's kind of a bummer. Unhook yourself, dude, or unwrap yourself.
Okay. Well, just reel this puppy in.
Skiing sturgeon.
Not a big
Alright.
one. It felt bigger.
Well, yeah, I'm
because, you
sure
know,
it did until it rolled. Maybe stick your rod tip around there and unpop it.
Where is it?
Oh, you gotta go other way.
Other way?
Yep, there you go. Oh well. Step back, I can grab him for you. Tail wrap sturge. Oh boy, did he ever do the roly-poly. I was like paralyzed.
Right. That's pretty interesting.
Holy cow, lassoed. is.
That's a mess.
We're getting on the small sturgeon. We'll get a big one.
We got a pattern going.
We're catching them. I mean, I've just found so many times that if you're catching sturgeon, there's sturgeon in the area. Don't get discouraged because you're catching these. There's something here that sturgeon just like.
It's not a grouping up by size thing.
Not from what I've seen. This dude back. Oh, they're cool. When we're looking for these sturgeon, side imaging is a really powerful tool to find them. I mean, they're obviously huge fish, and they show up really well, especially when they're on sand, and really well if they're active and they're slightly up off the bottom. So when we come through these holes, we'll spend a lot of time just sniffing around. We're looking for bottom composition changes, little rolls in the hole, and then obviously, of course, fish as well. So you don't see a lot of the fish on your traditional 2D sonar or down imaging, but they're quite evident many times on the side imaging unit. So when we're driving around, I'm always looking at my side imaging to see if there's fish in the holes or not. Now sometimes they can be so tight to the bottom and they can be tucked behind little pieces of cover that you don't see them. So you end up, if you want to fish, you end up having to spend a lot of time just fishing in the areas that look good. But if the fish are moving, they're active, they're really easy to show up on side imaging. And I've got some really cool screenshots that I've grabbed over the years to prove that sturgeon show up really well on this technology. You can see right here, this green is the deeper part of this hole. So we've got sturgeon on a lot of these waypoints here, but we're going to set up right on the tip of this thing. That, in theory, should be where a lot of the active fish are set up. And then as we head upriver here, you can see this turns into a lot more of a shallow area. So when the fish are really in transition, moving through here, these little neck downs, like right through here in between the holes, can be dynamite. But at this point in time, it seems like the life we're seeing is all associated with the deeper water, which is pretty typical in this system. All right, Nick, let's give it a shot. Right in here looks pretty good whenever you are ready. In a lot of conditions, we'd be able to just drop the trolling motor in spot lock, but based on the hours that we'll be fishing and the speed of the current, it's one of those things where the motor would just be running on full tilt the whole day. So we're going to go with the traditional anchor, and the water's still a little swift as well, but trying to anchor sideways in the current just doesn't seem to be the deal either. Did we catch?
I got him, Jarrett. Yep.
No way, that's a sturge.
It's a sturgeon,
that's a sturge, yep. Heck yeah, all right, I'll get mine in. One of the coolest fish, I think, that swims in fresh water. Just came to visit. You might have to come on this side, get on the other side of the motor.
Okay.
So the harder you pull on them, the harder they're going to pull back. Don't be afraid to just be a man with them. Heck yeah. Yeah. Just make sure you can pull line if he needs to, but just keep your rod fully loaded. Keep going.
Oh man, it's almost like I'm hooked up to a very, very large tree.
Yeah. You can gain on him. Get that rod loaded. Keep cranking until that rod, you got a lot of load to go.
Cool.
Yes. So the deal with this is, what you want to do is just basically we drive around and we look with our electronics for signs of life or bottom composition changes, and then you soak some worms and minnows on the bottom. Right now we're on a spot where the shiners are running, so we've got a good push of fish in here. We've got some higher water. Things are looking good.
Good indeed. Good enough for me.
Heck yeah. Right on. Was it a good bite?
Oh yeah, just smoked it.
Yeah, you did, huh?
Yeah. So today, is this gonna happen?
Oh yeah, cool. Woo!
Yes. That looked like it was a pretty nice one.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Heck yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Put some beef to them. See how much power they have. Like
Okay.
it's super fun. Like the harder you pull, the harder they're gonna pull back. Like look at that, isn't that crazy?
Holy cow.
That's what makes them fun. They're like,
Oh my goodness.
you're like, you want to play? They're like, I'll play. Look at that.
Ooh.
Think catfish are tough? Think muskies are tough? Hook into one of these things and you really see what freshwater toughness is.
Yeah, holy cow.
Aren't they amazing?
Yeah, they are pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of like the Goliath grouper.
Yeah, right?
Watching, and they're just pumping them. Ugh.
Pump them, Nick, pump them.
Oh. Wow.
Just watch the anchor rope so he doesn't get ahead of us there.
Oh. This is like, it's like two hands and you just like try not to lose the rod. Wow. Oh. Whoa. You're gonna have to chase this thing around.
So Nick, for a little power, I'll give you a suggestion.
Yeah.
Don't get your rod so high, you lose all your power there. You want the rod low
Okay.
and short strokes. Like never get it as high as you just did, right? Right, that's as high as you want to go.
Okay.
Yep, and short strokes and then you can really power them in. Yep, just those short little pump, pump, pump.
Ooh.
There you go. Nice. That's a good one.
Wow.
Woo, look at that.
Check that out.
Is that your biggest freshwater fish?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you like that? He's got his biggest fish on.
Oh man.
Come over here, dude.
Wow.
Doesn't want to come this way.
Almost as tough as the 1.5 pound largemouth I was catching last week. Oops. Sorry.
Well, you're doing great.
I think
Here he comes.
I think we're gonna end up getting them.
Sweetness. Okay, so what I'll end up having you do is you'll have to walk forward and then
Back there?
forward in the boat. Yep, that'll give me a shot to grab him in the back here.
Okay.
There you go. It's always mayhem when this happens. I love big fish. They just don't give up. I mean, nothing.
No,
I
they
mean,
don't.
like cats are tough, but these things are just on a whole nother level, a whole nother planet. Especially when the water's warm. Like a lot of people come up here early in the spring or late in the fall. There tends to be a lot more fish in the river, but we're here kind of early fall and the water's still really warm, so they've got a lot of pulling power right now. You can whoop them a lot easier when the water's 34 degrees than when the water's in the low 60s.
I'm not convinced he's even tried yet.
Those short strokes and you'll whoop them.
I just don't know how tight I want to cinch this
Sure.
puppy. Just because I don't know, you know?
Yep, yeah.
Here comes Jer.
Sweet. Lift, 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 lift. Walk back and lift. There's your sturgeon, dude. All right, cool. Look at that. How do you like that, Nick?
That is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah, if you've never got a chance to experience sturgeon, they're really one of freshwater's most awesome fish, prehistoric beasts. that pull like nothing else, right?
Yeah, that's no lie.
Cool, let's get a still picture and we'll get her back in the water.
Cool.
Woo!
Hey, I got a question for you. Have you ever been in a restaurant, walking through the mall, enjoying any public facility anywhere, and you've seen somebody there that looked a little bit different? Maybe it was the way they dressed, the way they looked, and your thoughts were kind of, I wonder what their deal is all about. Hey, we all been there someplace, sometime. You've seen somebody and you're just curious about, you know, just what's their deal? I got to share a little story with you that happened to me this past season. I was at a church doing an outreach program where I talk about fishing in my faith, And at the end I'm up in the front, and there's a whole line of people, and they're all coming, selfies. Naturally, that's what you're doing today. They got books and take a picture and a selfie. Thank you for coming. And there's a whole line of them, all different ages. And I kept looking back into the corner, and there was an elderly woman there, just kind of averagely dressed, a small, petite little lady, and sitting right on the side, and she was, all these other people were coming up, and this went on for, I don't know, half hour. And she was like the very last one. And she come up to me, very sweet-spirited, very quiet, a very nondescript person, for lack of a better word. And she grabbed my hand, and she put this in my hand and folded it over. And she said, I've had this for 35 years, and it's really, really important to me, and God told me to give you this tonight. I took it, put it in my pocket, thanked her, gave her a hug. Yeah, and it's kind of the end of the evening, everything wrapped down. We went to eat. I go back to my motel room, and this little box, I sit down and I open it. Old design on what it was. It's a fish hook. Very old fish hook. And embroidered on that fish hook is Matthew 4:19. Many of you know that scripture. It says, follow me and I'll make you a fisher of men. To me, that is an important scripture. I can't get this out of my mind. I would love to know her story, what that meant, why this was so important, why the Lord laid it on her heart to give this to me after 35 years. There's a story there. I'll never get to know it. Naturally, in a world, I won't get to know it. But I think about that so often. It says, follow me and I'm going to make you a fisher of men. That happens to be a scripture that became really, 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 really real to me. I understood, what does it mean in a nutshell? I'm in a position where I can share a lot of information, reach a lot of people, and I just give God glory in everything I do. Talk about the Bible, the truth and power of His Word. That's what I do in my daily life and where I go and when I do it. So I just needed to share that with you. I can't tell you how many times I think about that little old lady in this, and I really would like to know the rest of her story. Someday I might. It ain't going to be on this earth. Hey, from all of us here at The Edge, you have a good stay fishing season. We'll see you on the water. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for watching. And if you really like what you see, we got a whole lot more. So check us out at any one of these online outlets. You know, in fishing, there are good days and there are great days. Time is just a wink from the Almighty. We plan, target, rig, and play the game like everyone else.